Welcome in to another edition of Nick Patrick's Mailbag, exclusively right here on Podcast Heat Wrestling YouTube. Thank you for joining us once again, our weekly show, live Q&A with the man in the ring when all the shenanigans seem to go down. The man who could referee in a neck brace, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Nick Patrick. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. I did put in a lot of hard work time with neck braces on and stuff, man. How many people would still get on an airplane, show up, and then work injured like that now?
I don't know many.
That's just pure dedication to your industry right there, man.
I don't know many who spent a lot of time in the neck brace like you. I know Joe Gertner used to rock it back at ECW, but that's it. You and him, I think.
Yeah.
Man, how are you doing, man? I hope everything's going good. Good to see you again, brother.
Oh, everything's doing pretty good, man. Family's doing well. My son Tony just had a birthday, and he's home for a week or so. And Big Nick's doing good. He kicked my ass in the gym today, and is ready to do it again tomorrow. And Nanny's doing okay. She's hanging in there. You know, she has good days and bad days. Anymore, it's getting to be a lot more bad days than good. But today's been a pretty good day, you know. Knock on wood. So we keep on rolling, man.
Deep South is rocking and rolling. You got a big event coming up, right? In Deep South Wrestling there in Atlanta, Georgia. Yeah,
we got Monday Night Garage coming up on this weekend. So that's going to be huge. We got a great card lined up, and I really don't have all the information in front of me. I'll be honest with you, because I've been.
That's all right.
It's but there's a lot of really cool things going on, man, right now. And I've been doing different interviews. I've been doing this podcast, and Deep South is clicking. We have different people come and show up. Atlanta Journal's coming when they've interviewed some of the people from the company. They're just wanting to sit down and interview me now. So, you know, we're getting press, and we're making some noise especially within the Atlanta market, which is where we. Like, you know, when we told you that was our project to start, to get hot in Atlanta and spread, you know. So things are working, you know. It's just it takes time, and because we're starting from scratch,
yeah.
You know, and I don't, you know, I'm not a rich man, and I don't have a bunch of investors. You know, what we have is what we generate, and if we don't generate it, then we damn go without it, and we just keep working hard, you know. And so far, it's working, and we have people now that are wanting to invest and are putting into it. So that's why we're on the cusp right now. You know, I can't make any real announcements right now because we've got some really cool stuff in the works coming up, and you're going to be impressed coming up real soon.
Sure, we got a lot of stuff. If you want to check them out, go to wearedeepsouth.com. You can see merch. You can figure out how to get involved. You can see. Coming up, you can see the bios of everybody that's on the roster, a lot of people that's on the roster. I'm sure you guys got a fluid roster there, guys and gals coming in and coming out. But you can see most of that main core of Deep South right there on the website. Follow them on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, the whole deal, and find out more about that. We'll promote that, of course, as well later in the show. We got a lot to talk about today. Today we are live here on September 17th. It's a very big birthday in the wrestling world. We'll get to that. Okay. We also want to get to, of course, a lot of everybody's questions. If you've got a question, hit us up in the chat. We'll get to as many of those as we can before we get out of here in an hour or so. If you want to make sure we get to yours and you want to jump to the front of the line, go ahead and hit us in that super chat. We greatly appreciate it. That's an easy, quick way to help out the show, continue the show going, make progress with the show. So hit us up on that super chat if you'd like to be involved that way. Jump to the front of the line and make sure we get to it. We did have a loose topic today. If y'all want to, you can ask about anything, anytime, anywhere. But we are going to discuss a little bit the differences. Nick, I wanted to pick your brain on working under Vince Russo versus working under Bischoff. So we will get to that as well during the show. So we have a ton to get to, brother. Are you ready?
Yes, sir. Let's hit it, man.
Well, first, I always like sharing love. Here's Eric Tate. He said, this show never gets old. I love this. Well, thank you for that, Eric.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Always greatly appreciated. Also, going back on our podcast YouTube Heat channel, YouTube Heat, Podcast Heat YouTube channel, going back to last week's, looking in the comment section, shout out to Austrian Glover, who said, cool Q&A. You got to respect the Hamilton legacy in pro wrestling, spanning 9 decades between Nick and his father, Jody. Looking good for 65. Cheers, Nick.
Thank you, sir. I'm trying to hang in there. I'm chasing my son Nick are chasing me around the gym. That's what's keeping me going, man. And not being on the road anymore helps a hell of a lot too.
Think about that, man. The Hamilton legacy in wrestling, 9 decades.
Yeah,
That's incredible to think
Pop
about.
started in the 50s. You know, he was one of the youngest guys to main event in Madison Square Garden back when he was like 17 or 18 years old. And my uncle started back in the days when there was still the carnival doing. They were doing it in tents, going around, traveling. So yeah, we've been in it for a minute. We've seen all the changes from super old school to moderate old school to me old school, and now I'm on into new school and whatever it is some of these kids are calling what they're doing too now.
Your dad was in it. You just said your uncle was in it.
Yeah,
of course,
my dad's older brother.
Jody Hamilton, your dad, the assassin. A couple quick things. Was he always the assassin? Do you remember any of his other gimmicks?
I mainly only remember him as the assassin because he did that when I was really young. And, when he was just Joe Hamilton, a babyface, that was like before I was born or as I was born. And he became an assassin, and I was just a baby. My sister wasn't even born yet. So assassin's really pretty much all, assassin and flame. That's mainly what I remember.
I'm from originally from Gadsden, Alabama, just over the Georgia line. And it was funny. I didn't think of it at the time, but now that I got older, I was thinking about it. And, we had a Hardee's, and Hardee's breakfast used to be notorious. And all the old men in Gadsden would go down to Hardee's and sit there and get their coffee.
Yeah.
Read the paper, talk, gossip about everybody.
Uh-huh.
And I remember there was a rumor that the Flame would always come over to Hardee's. And I was like, well, that was pretty cool. The Flame, the wrestler's coming over. And then I got older. I'm like, he wasn't coming to Gadsden to sit at the Hardee's.
It was probably a local guy using the Flame gimmick, actually, because there was, people stole back then. Trademark was, people stole Pop. Yeah, there were different people using assassin in different places. There was folks that came, and asked Pop's permission, and there was a couple that he gave because they actually worked with him as his partner in a couple of different places. He had like maybe 3 guys that I can think of right off the bat that and he didn't care if they used the assassin gimmick somewhere else, when he wasn't there. So, it was probably that. Because I know that was one of the main reasons why he changed there in his later years and got that last run as the Flame, because there was already some local guy down there that had used the assassin gimmick to run it, to into the ground. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so why try to, even though he could do it way better, it's something that had been seen forever. So that's why the main reason why he wanted to switch to the Flame while he was down there.
Did he, you said there was, at least 3 people that came to him and asked for permission. Did he ever get mad if he ran across somebody using it without permission?
Yeah, but I never, not mad enough to go hunt him down or nothing like that. If I heard him, I said, I heard him say, what a dick. That is a dick move to do, to go in and get a payday. It could have been his, if they wanted to contact him, so, but that, there's not a whole lot of honor in wrestling, it's, especially back then,
it was the Wild West.
Oh yeah. Oh, there was a promoter once when I was a little kid. I'll tell you his name is Nick Goulas. There's Nick Goulas stories about everywhere. And Pop hardly ever worked for him. And after this happened, he never worked for him again. But I think it was in Chattanooga. Pop took me with him to the matches. I was a little boy. I was an elementary school kid, right? So Pop's in the ring working, and here comes the promoter that I knew he was a promoter because when Pop introduced me when I got there with him, right? He comes up and hands me the little envelope of money and goes, "Here's your dad's pay, kid. Now you hold on to that tight. Don't let nothing happen to it." And then he hauled ass. So I give Pop his pay slip, and it's about like 50, whatever. It was way short. I don't know how many dollars it was short, but it was way short. And he said, "Why, that old son of a bitch," and it infuriated me, because I'm a little boy now, but I was a little boy that was I've seen some shit, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was hardcore family, and man, when I realized that old man took advantage of me so he could rip my dad off, I hated that old son of a bitch from that point on, man. As a little boy, I thought, man, if I could, I'd stick that son of a bitch if I could. I hated him, man. And I hear all these stories about guys laughing. Oh, Nick Goulas, he would rip off and hated David. And I thought, yeah, that son of a bitch. Yeah, he took advantage of a little kid, and that little kid hated his guts for the rest of the time, man.
Did you ever see him down the road?
No. No, but I'd have told him about it for damn sure.
I was about to say, you've told me.
I said, give me some money, you old bastard. You owe him.
You owe my family a
Pull
buck.
that billfold out and hand it over, you old turd.
That's great. And that's wild. Your dad just kind of, just chalked it up.
What's he going to do? The guy's gone.
Doing?
The guy's gone. He said, well, I'm going to make a special trip up to beat this old man up for $50, $100, ever how much it was, It wasn't worth the trip. And it just, I just let everybody know that he's a ripoff, and people already knew, and Pop knew. He said, well, that's a chance you take, He was in between territories, I guess, and wanted to get a booking here and there, before he took off on the road again, and accepted that one. And and the guy probably knew that Pop wasn't going to probably come but once or twice, and that he could do it and get away with it, So that's the kind of guy he was.
Old Nick Goulas.
Yeah, old Nick.
In our chat, hit us up again if you want to jump to the front. Make sure we get to yours. Hit us up in that super chat. Meanwhile, let's attack some of these. Speaking of your dad, first, Reverend Buddy Green said, hello, Nick and Cassio. Hey, Nick,
hey, Rev.
Next time you see Tony, wish him happy birthday for me.
I will do so.
And he said, hey, I've been watching 1982 GCCW on YouTube and noticed the Masked Superstar was kind of like your dad. He said, we are missing great masked heels.
Yeah.
Why do you think we don't have a lot of masked heels anymore?
Because Vince didn't like masked guys, and he kind of dictated what goes on in the business, and he didn't like masked guys, so you don't see a whole lot of them up there. Yeah, that was it. That basically that shot it right there. But there was a mystique to that, and a whole masked guys had to learn how to work slightly differently than everybody else because they had no facial expression, very, very little facial expression that you could see under the mask. So they had to pantomime more with their body and more, they had to find other ways to express pain and to express anger and to express all the emotions that you can do through your face. They had to do it with their body and their body language.
It's like when you hear somebody is blind or somebody is deaf and they have other heightened senses. Your body goes, I have to adapt, and that's your mind going, how do I get these expressions over? How do I be more expressive so I can still tell the story in the ring? I would say it made everybody better that did that.
Yeah, I think so. But it was an old school thing too. Back in the day, old school, slower was better. And to a degree, that's true. You have to give people time to react to what you do and let them either enjoy it or not, but you can't just go zip and run, pop, 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 and run on to the next thing and not give them time to absorb it first and to react to it, and get, if it's something that's really big and you don't give them time to get that full response and milk that full response out of it, then you basically just thrown that spot away.
Man, I was looking it up here. You were saying your dad was one of the youngest to headline Madison Square Garden. That was he was 19.
Yeah,
when he co-headlined Madison Square Garden, making him the youngest wrestler to do so at the time. And your uncle, the Missouri Mauler. Yeah. How about that?
Yeah, he's the one that broke Pop in back in the day.
So he was he already in the, how much older was he than your dad?
He's like, I think 8 or 9 years older than my dad.
Okay. So how long, he had been doing it for a minute before your
dad? He went to the Marine Corps and then got out of the Marines and got into the wrestling business. And, and was in the wrestling business, and had Pop do it, and started Pop locally doing a couple of things, and then Pop had a little skirmish with the policeman in St. Joe, Missouri. It's a hell of a story. It's
Okay,
Pop,
I'm here.
Pop was young, and there was this one old cop that used to hard ass all the younger kids, and Pop was a little hood, he did time and reform school and stuff,
Okay.
but this cop hard assed people, and Pop was little, and then the cop didn't see Pop for years, and then Pop hit a growing spurt, and he got to where he was like 220, and then he could box. He boxed nationals, Golden Gloves, and Pop could go and was in shape and was starting to wrestle and had played football and stuff. And he was shooting pool in the south end of St. Joe. And this old cop come in, didn't recognize him, and shot a game of pool. And I think Pop beat him. And then I think Pop ended up, because Pop wanted him, and he let him know, hey, you remember me? And he was like, no. And he said, well, I'm Papa. When he told him who he was, and the cop tried to, and Pop just lit his ass up bad. Yeah. And, but the guy wasn't in uniform. He was off duty, but then they were going to get my dad, because this is like in the 50s. Okay. This is in the 50s in St. Joe, Missouri,
No,
and
little rules back then.
And now Pop's done beat up one of the police badly. And they were all friends, and they were going to get Pop. And one of them was really close friends with my uncle. And, they're playing football in high school. And he says, come get your brother and get him out of this city, or they're going to kill him.
Wow.
So my uncle came and got him lined up, and Pop went to New York, man, and didn't look back.
Wow. That could have been scary.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a couple times. My mom told me about that time. They were trying to get him, and Pop wouldn't go anywhere without either Mom being in the car or his mom being in the car, because they were waiting for him to be alone to try and get him. And so he always kept somebody with him. And my uncle showed up and said, look, something happens to my little brother, you son of bitches are going to have to, I'll kill all of you. I'll come to kill all of you, and you're going to have to kill me. That's just the way they were. It was crazy ass. I come from some crazy people, man.
It's all makes sense now.
Yeah. Yeah. And my uncle flat told him, look, if something happens to my brother, I'm going to come and kill all of you. So they said, well, then get your brother out of here. And he was friends with a couple of them. A couple of them said, look, man, get him and go. So he's out, and he went to New York, man, bleached his hair blonde and became one of the Hamilton brothers.
That was it.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Your dad was a big dude. Your uncle a big guy as well?
Yeah, he was bigger than my dad, actually.
Really?
Yeah, taller, and he was one of the big barrel-chested guys. If you look up the Missouri Mauler, he had a lot of big angles with the same people as my dad. He worked Florida a lot. He worked the Carolinas a lot. He worked the Southeast mainly, and the Midwest a lot. And he went to Japan and all places, like back in the day. But he was mainly big then. I've seen a lot of different stuff with him working with Dusty in different places when he was, he had a big run. He had a big run down in Florida wrestling.
Wow. And
a big run in Georgia too. When he came, he had a good run in the Carolinas. He was a big guy and had a good name back in the day.
The Missouri, let's see.
Missouri Mauler. There he is. There he is, with Dusty on one hand and Rick Candy on the other. and the guy in the picture in the back is Rock Hunter. And he was my dad's manager for a long time. A super, super nice guy. Great worker, great manager. And he was one of those guys that was just strong. He power lifted and was doing weightlifting and bodybuilding back before it was, popular. There was always a couple of guys back then that did it. But that old guy, Rock Hunter, was one of them, man. And yeah, what a heel too. Look at both of those guys now.
Look at them.
There's not a good guy in that picture right there, except for poor Ray Candy and Dusty Rhodes.
Is that on his gloves?
Yeah, that's some kind of tape fist thing he had. I don't know what the deal was. There's some kind of gloves that he had, and he had to put them on there.
He's got one for each of them. That is awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah, but that's my uncle that got my dad out of St. Joe. That was him. That's the one that told him something happens to my brother, I'm coming. That was him.
One of your Deep South guys, always involved, 40 out C-Dub, said my dad met an actual assassin at Huddle House back in the 70s. Not sure how my dad came across this info. Guess the assassin liked his eggs. Okay. Wrestling 782 said, what was your take on the issues between your dad and Joe Pedicino? So first, who is Joe Pedicino for those who are not familiar?
Joe Pedicino was a local guy that was a host for a wrestling show, and we had a show on Channel 36 in Atlanta at the time, and it was called Cavalcade of Wrestling, and that's back in the territory days.
What year is this probably ish?
80,
mid 80s.
Yeah, mid 80s,
Okay.
5, 6. No, it had to be 86, 7ish, somewhere around there, because I got hurt in 85 and we hadn't really cranked it up yet. So it was 6 or 7ish, somewhere around there. And we were all doing business, and I don't know what happened where the falling out came, but we ended up going to another channel and running the same type of thing on Channel 69 in Atlanta against Pedicino and his thing in Channel 36 in Atlanta. And it was
Buddy Green said it was Saturday night, 8 p.m. till 3 a.m.
Yeah,
all territories.
Every territory, man. Pop had people sending in tapes from Texas and Puerto Rico and Canada. I mean, we had tapes coming in from everywhere, man. And some of them went with Joe, and some of them went with us. You know, and we had like a little indie. Because that was really when indie just first started really kind of cranking up in Georgia at that point in time. Georgia Championship Wrestling was big, and I don't really remember, a lot of independents. There was somebody that would run a show here and there, but that was steady, constantly running shows. It's a whole different time now. There's somebody in every town running a show now, but it wasn't that way back in a day.
Let's see what we got here. Joe Pedicino, that's a blast from the past.
Yeah, that's all it really was. Is they had their falling out, and we went on to Channel 69, and Pedicino stayed on 36, and some people sent their tapes to Joe, and some people sent their tapes to Pop, and we just and we competed for ratings in the city.
All right, let's see what we got. Let's jump into this mailbag. Oh, look at that. The Blue Meanie joined us. Brian Redfron, Blue Meanie, said, Nick, out of all the guitar players you've tried to emulate, who was the hardest to learn to play like? Ooh.
Any of those technical guys, because I was never really a technical, all those guys that can do all the running, tapping, sweeps. To try and play and sound anything like Eddie Van Halen, you better know what the hell you're doing, man. Or Stevie Ray Vaughan, they just had their own. You could close your eyes and listen to either one of those guys play and not know, somebody just start playing a song and you know who it was, just by the way they sounded, and those two guys would be really hard because they were technical, but they had feel too. That's a combination, man. That's the money combination, to have to have the technical and the prowess, but to have that soul and that feeling, and to be able to just not do sweeping runs and and I liked playing a lot more rhythm guitar than the lead. I liked having playing with the bass player and then with the drummer and getting more of the beat down. I enjoyed doing that. I didn't ever want to be in the front, because the people that I played with, everybody was more experienced than me. I was learning. I carried my guitar on the road and played every day and every night on the road, when I was traveling. But I didn't want to be on the forefront. I wanted to be in the background playing and doing my thing, because I was completely comfortable with wrestling.
Yeah.
And I wasn't completely comfortable with that.
Okay.
I only did it for fun, and I did it because I loved it, and it was relaxing to me. And I could pick up my guitar and just go into my own little freaking world and next thing I know, an hour's gone by, and forget about bullshit. And it's, it was just a really super release for me. I never ever had a dream, of playing, band wise or taking it to a whole nother level, because to do that, you have to dedicate as much of yourself to that as I did to wrestling. And I didn't have time. Every moment of my day and existence was pretty much dedicated to wrestling. The only way I could even practice guitar is to have a little Steinberger copy and tote that sucker on the road with me everywhere I went, So, but as far as people to try to emulate, I think that those two would that I said would have been Eddie Van Halen and Stevie Ray Vaughan, two completely different styles, but like distinct sound.
Yeah, I totally get it, because there's a lot of people on social media. They'll be playing along to a song and show you they can hit a solo or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm watching it, and this is just my I think it's kind of what you're saying, but it's my view on music. I watch it and I go, yeah, but it's just mechanical.
Mm-hmm.
I like the music to be you coming from a place and
Mm-hmm.
bonding with it, and going, this is my emotion coming out of this guitar. And like you said, Stevie Ray, Eddie, that was them. That was
Yes.
part of them coming out of those fingers, which was pretty incredible. Who would you say that you did, you were closest to in style? Who would you say you emulated? You were more rhythm. Was there guys you went, you know what, I'm kind of like him. Let me see what he's doing. Let me see his sound. Was there people who you were kind of, hey, that's the guy I'm kind of focused on?
I liked Malcolm Young's sound.
Okay.
I
AC/DC.
liked his sound a lot. And
that was the kind of style you liked.
Yeah, and I tell you who else, and this is a really highly underrated guitarist. He's badass, and I don't say rhythm guitar because he did most of the lead. A lot of the well-known lead licks for Aerosmith was Brad Whitford.
Oh yes, very underrated.
What a freaking guitar player, man!
Yeah,
I was a big fan of him too.
All right, that's a good call. Those are good ones to look up to right there. Good ones to emulate. Thanks for joining us, Meanie. Good to see you, buddy.
Man.
I appreciate
Take care,
that,
brother.
man.
Good to hear from you, man.
Yeah. Let's see what else we got in the mailbag. Oh, Byron Stone said, "Great to see you last night. Deep South Wrestling rules."
Yeah, Byron, man. Byron's a badass too, man. He's MMA instructor and jiu-jitsu instructor and a wrestler and super nice guy, retired police officer. He's got a young son, 19 years old, that's interested in becoming a wrestler. We brought him down. We got him in the ring for his first time. He's going to be good. We're going to blend his dad's training and his background with wrestling style so that everybody looks for a way to stand out and be different,
Yeah.
And when you have natural skills at something in a different, whether it be boxing or MMA or jiu-jitsu or whatever, you got to use that. You got to learn to work with it. You can't go out there and kill people with it, but you got to incorporate that into your style so that you can create your character, and that makes you different. And I've heard kids so many times say, especially like when they're buying gear and stuff. Yeah, but nobody's wearing stuff like that. Yeah, well, that's right. Nobody's wearing stuff like that. That's why you want to do it, dumbass.
Yeah.
Don't go buy something that the same thing, And if you go buy something generic that you can buy offline, that's okay when you very first start. So you get a couple matches under your belt. But when you start trying to build and develop a character, you have to have your own unique look. You can't have something that somebody can go online and order your same shit, and knock your look off, So and that's okay to start, but you have to have professional gear. Once you're going to be serious, then be serious and look like a wrestler. Get professional gear. And I know boots are a pain in the ass if you're used to not working in boots, but learn to work in boots, because when people see a guy in boots and tights, they think you're a wrestler right off the bat, unless you screw it up.
Or you could go like Manny with the midriff and the blue jean shorts.
Different looks work for different gimmicks.
He got it over. It was him.
Yeah. Not everybody has to wear boots and tights, not everybody, that's like I said, find a way to stand out and make it work.
Yeah. All right. Let's see what we got. Tony Flowers hit us up, said, "What's up, fellas? Nick, was there ever a wrestler that sold so well that you, as the referee, were convinced they were actually hurt before checking on them?" Thank you, gentlemen. Thanks, Tony. I always appreciate it, brother.
Yeah, a couple of times I checked on Tommy Rich a couple of times to see if he was legitimately hurt.
Really?
And yeah, and Ricky Steamboat too. Yeah. And because I was used to how they both sold and the things that they did normally when they were selling, but there was a couple of times that they would boom, and you take a bump and you say, ooh, you'd have to go and check, and not that they were taking crazy off the top bumps, but every now and then you just got to check, and
Yeah.
make sure. So they
It's like in a
try,
relationship. You can
yeah,
tell by the tone of their voice if something's the
hmm
matter with them.
yeah, you
You
can
were so
see.
used to the way they sold,
Yeah, because
which
we
is
worked
also,
every night. Yeah, we
yeah.
worked every night back then, and what we was doing on the road was preparing us for what we was going to do on TV. So it's you would know kind of by what some you was used to people's different movements and different the way they sold, and if you saw them doing something different, like, ooh, maybe you have to double check. And if that's our job, is to make sure people are okay too.
Yeah.
So anytime you see something different, if you think there's even any chance that one of the guys are hurt, man, you got to get in there and make sure.
I think that's also a testament to how good they are. That even you, I mean, that
Yeah.
if you're
Yes.
picking up on it, the crowd is definitely picking up on.
Yeah.
Man, he looked like he landed wrong or twisted
And yeah,
weird or
and when
whatever.
the and the ref goes to check,
Yeah,
they know that, well, that had to hurt,
well, that was a big. Yeah, that was something
Yeah,
serious.
maybe that shouldn't have happened, no.
Let's see. Not that Tom Green hit us up and said, as a referee who loved to hold on to the ropes, we talked about that, but he said, did
Mhm.
you prefer cables or an actual rope? That's a good question.
Um, from a worker standpoint, I prefer cable
Why is
because
that?
they're more sturdy. You can if they're taped up right, and now if they're not taped up properly, and see, cable is a cable with just hose on it, and if it's taped up, that hose doesn't roll. If it's not taped up right, if you like it for guys doing springboards, they can jump up on it, and if that thing's rolling, they're getting that,
Okay.
it's got to be solid. And ropes, you have to change them very, very frequently because guys get sweat, they get oil, they get everything gets on those ropes and they rot fast. They rot, and if you put them up and they sit for a month or so, they've had sweat on them. You never know. I've seen Vince's ropes break. On Undertaker, I've seen him, and I forgot who else, but I saw him break twice, and it was usually in Europe when we had a ring that was over there that they kept stored, and we'd do a big tour, and then it would be in storage until we come back and do the next
Okay.
big tour. So they got to where they had to change them ropes all the time. And cable ropes, they're stronger, they last longer. You don't get that dry rot. All ropes will break. And
Yeah.
you have to be careful, and you have to know how to run them and how to do right. But I always preferred the stability and of the and now the ropes look great. Don't get me wrong; they have a unique look. But as far as practicality and for guys using them, I like the cable ropes better.
All right. Let's see. Do they feel the same when you're running them?
No,
What would you prefer when if
ropes
you're
are
running?
bigger. The ropes are bigger around. They're all hard, but
Yeah.
them cables with the hose on them, you got to know how to run them right. And when you very first start working and you're practicing running the ropes, they'll beat the crap out of you. Those ropes, when you first start running and you're learning to work
Oh,
and you're taking tackles and running ropes and bing bang bing and doing, you look like somebody beat you to death because right here where your lat hits, that's one place it hits. And right where you would get a shot on the back of your butt, that's the next place it hits. And you're not used to going bam, 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 bam,
yeah.
bam, bam, and bam, hitting it like as hard as you can every time. And when you very first start, it's like playing guitar. When you first start playing, your fingers get sore as hell. And over time you get calluses and you get used to it. And the same thing with running ropes, man. When you first start running, you get bruised up bad, and it looks like you look like somebody beat you to half to death, and it's just you practicing. But you end up learning how to do it and when to do it, and once you get good at it, how often do you go? Bah, 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 you can
Right.
only do that when you're practicing and learning. you know, in a match, unless you've got a spot where the guy runs the ropes and the second guy stops and watches him for 5 minutes. You're not going to get a lot of that. You know what I mean?
You're going to give somebody an idea. That's going to be on TV now.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's not a new spot.
It is weird. There's like, I mean, the first one that comes to mind always for some reason is Big Boss Man, Ray Traylor. I don't know why, but when he used to hit the ropes, it looked like they went so deep and so far back. I mean, you see some get that top and bounce.
Mm-hmm.
There was some that he just
Ray was big.
He would just hit it, and it looked like it was gonna break. He would get so deep of a bounce off that. It just looked different. It's just the ropes are a fascinating little deal there. Little twist of how do you hit them, when do you hit them, like you said, how much are you hitting them, and I've been in a ring and in different situations, and you know that's the first thing your mind as a fan you want to do is let me run the ropes.
Yeah,
you hit that first one, you go, I'm not done with running the ropes.
Yeah. And if you don't get that arm up and you don't catch that top rope when you lean into it, and you're going to go right through, man, and you're going to bust your ass, and that top rope is going to eat the back of your head and maybe your ear. I mean, man, you got to know what you're doing. You can't just jump in and start running around. I love when somebody first time gets in the ring and they want to fall down. It's like, okay, you know, and I'll walk out there and show them. They do it like this, blap, you know, just take a flat back bump and get up. Okay. And when they hit it, bam, they're like, oh, shit. You know, I thought it was more like a trampoline. This, you know, no, look underneath this pad. It's wood. It's 2x8s going across, you know.
A trampoline.
Yeah, I thought it was softer than that. You know, it looks soft. We got an amateur mat and a pad on top of boards. And that's it. You know, it's people think that it's like bouncing on your bed or something, you know, and it's not.
That's so good. Chris Gallegos is in our chat. He said, first, you're my favorite referee along with Scrappy McGowan.
All right, man. He's going way back. He's going old Georgia Championship Wrestling days.
Yeah, he said, I watched reruns of Georgia Championship Wrestling in the early 80s and then Dynamite. And he also said, I also watch NWA Jim Crockett Promotions reruns, which is, there we go. If I'm not mistaken, today is Mr. Crockett's birthday. Nick, quickly, talk
David
about
Crockett or Jim Crockett or David Crockett. There's two of them.
Let's see who.
Jim Crockett would be Jim Jr. He was the one that was pretty much the boss, and David was the announcer. And they had another brother that passed away, Jackie. Jackie was the coolest one of all of them.
Excuse me. I got it confused. It is Mr. Cornette's birthday, Jim Cornette.
Oh, Jim Cornette.
I saw Crockett and got excited, but it is Jim Cornette's birthday.
Okay, well, hell, happy birthday, Corny, man! I used to love working with him. He was so fun to work with when he was managing the Midnight Express. We had our own little routine that we did. It was funny. The guys who worked with us, and it was all ad lib stuff that happened, and we'd keep building on to it. But Cornette would jump up on the apron and say, "Referee, come here," and he'd have me come over there to him, and I'd go, "What?" And he'd take me and he'd poke me on the chest, you know, and give me a bunch of shit, right? And I'd look down at my chest, and I'd look back at him, and I'd poke him back and give him a bunch of shit back. I'd poke him right back on the chest, and he'd sell it almost down to to that. And he'd jump up, and he'd jump in the ring, and he'd pull that coat off and say, "Come on," you know. And I'd milk the people at that point. And I'd look, and I'd look at their baby faces, and I'd pull my shirt out of my pants, and I'd start doing the Fred Sanford, man. And when I start doing the Fred Sanford, he would take a bump in the ropes. It was just straight up goofy comedy routine. But the people ate it up, man. And the boys loved it too, because we were getting a pop, and they wouldn't have to take a bump. So. And the baby faces ended up coming and raising the ref's hand after. We had a whole 5 minutes that we would do. He was so fun to work with. He and a great mind for our business too. And Corny don't mind speaking his mind either. If you watch and listen to him, Yeah, he has opinions.
Yeah, he does. Strong opinions. Strong
He
opinions.
has no problem voicing those opinions.
Look, it's one of the reasons
That's what
he's
gets
so
him over.
successful. Yeah,
People want to see him go off.
yeah, for sure.
Because he says shit that they want to say, but that they wouldn't. I was thinking that. And his rants are kind of funny, man.
They're
I
fantastic.
love them. I love them, man. That's what gets him over. If
What'd
he
you
just talked
think-
normal, nobody'd give a damn.
What do you think of the
rants,
video?
man.
You've got to have seen the video of the hamburger. Oh, you haven't seen the video?
No.
The old school video of they're actually in the drive-through recording, and he goes off on the drive-through.
Oh God, I know he used to do that stuff. I've had Teddy do that before, and I would just say, "Never mind." And I just keep driving, man. I just ordered first, and then he goes to order, and then he starts cussing them. And I'm like, "Oh dear God, we're getting hack burgers, man." That's what I said. I just looked at it and said, "Never mind," and drove off, man. Kept on going, man. They said, "What, man?" I said, "Man, I ain't eating after that, brother. We're going somewhere else, somewhere where we don't have to cuss folks out."
Never mind. We're done. We're done with this. Let's see. How were you introduced to Cornette? Did he know your father? Were you coming up somewhere?
I met him at work. I met him wrestling I met him in WCW.
Okay.
I didn't know him back in the Georgia Championship days.
All right.
I met him when I was working when I worked at WCW, and he was managing Midnight Express.
You guys always hit it off from the beginning?
Yeah. Well, then I never traveled with him ever, but I worked with him and knew him, and he was fine. We worked, and we had a good working relationship. We did, we enjoyed working with each other.
Yeah, like you said earlier, one of the best minds to ever be involved in the business, man.
Yeah, and he's one of those guys that. And it's like my guy Eric, and there's certain people that are this way. Their mind is just wrestling, 24 hours a day wrestling. Just everything about them, the history of wrestling, and I lived a lot of that history, and I was blessed to be able to do that. But I'm different than that. I have to have time that I step away, or I will lose my mind. Honestly, I have to have time where I just unplug completely away from wrestling and just be me and just have life and be into what my people are doing, in their lives and stuff, and not because they were into my life for so many years and had to be into me and wrestling and travel and blah, 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 me coming off the road and blah, blah, blah. And, it's time for them to have to have that spotlight or whatever it is I'm trying to say. But I just, I'm glad to be where I'm at right now. Just, I'm in a good spot. I'm building something here at home. I'm able to take care of people. I got to see the world, man. I got to see the world on somebody else's dime. I got to see it so many times I don't want to see it. I've seen it. Okay.
Like you said, Cornette is such a historian, man. He's just one of those guys. You ask him about anything in the past, and he's got it.
I mean, like from Strangler Ed Lewis days. It's he can tell you stuff. He was telling Vince how to handle the Montreal screw job, how Strangler Ed had trouble dropping the title to somebody, and somebody did this and that. He's going over this history shit that happened back in the 30s, It's like to recreate it, well, nobody would, and in his defense, nobody would remember what the hell they did back in the 30s if they were going to pull some crap like that, So, yeah, like you said, he's a great wrestling mind, and he's total wrestling. That's why he's dedicated his life to it, and that's why he's so passionate about it. That's why it pisses him off when other people just especially like Vince Russo. Vince he's always saying like, it's just wrestling. Well, then why are you trying to pull a dime out of it if it's just wrestling? I mean, give a damn, It's have some passion about it, Anyway.
This is a good time to bring it up. We were going to talk. Somebody asked about those differences between working under Russo. We've talked a little bit about the differences in Russo and McMahon. But you worked during the eras both Vince Russo and Bischoff were steering the ship. So just overall, from the 10,000 foot view, how would you describe their overall creative approach? So first, overall creative approach, Vince Russo, what would you say is?
I think,
from your perspective,
I think he was trying to appeal more to adolescent kids. You know, a lot of his stuff that he tried to make a mix of funny stuff, and his stuff to me wasn't really that funny. And he tried to do a lot of WWE knockoff stuff, you know, and I'm like, when Eric was working, we had a chance. I mean, we took over. We took over and became number one when Eric was there. We slipped into number two and could have been possibly number three with Russo there. You know, it was there was a huge difference. Eric knew and had a vision on how to get other people over. Russo stuff to me was just more Hollywood cartoony, funny, haha, and his lack of passion come across to me in his presentation. It's just to me, you know. And I'm sitting there because I was an agent by that time, you know, and I sat through production meetings that Eric ran. I sat through production meetings that Russo run, and we had a chance and became number one when Eric was running it. Like I said, but when Russo was running it, we had slipped, and I could tell with what we were doing and the direction that we was going that we wasn't taken back over again. Because I just felt that inside me. I sat through the production meetings, and there was times that I just thought, damn, you know, this is not good, you know. But he was kind of a bitch, you know. If you spoke up or spoke your mind and had a counter opinion to his opinion, then you were insubordinate and he tried to get you fired. And I was about hanging on to my paycheck at that time for as long as I could, man. I had my kids in high school. My oldest son's autistic. I was trying to find out different therapies and different things. I had no idea about autism, you know. And I had more on my mind and on my plate than other people's egos and other people's bullshit. But I thought to myself, we're not going to recover from this, you know. How far down we're going to go, I don't know how far we're going to go, but we've lost that number one spot. We're not going to take it back. I felt that, and we never did, you know. So, and wasn't ever going to. You know,
did you convey that or talk about it to anybody else, or was that just your feelings?
Just the people that rode with me. Because there was a couple of referees that had to sit in on the production meetings that were friends of mine, you know. And when we started going through some stuff that was really bad, I mean, it was like, oh, I'd draw a big stack of crap on a piece of paper, you know, and with fumes coming up off of it. And I'd wait till I'd get my buddy's attention, and I'd hold the picture up to him, and they'd see the stack of shit with fumes coming off of it, and try to be like, you know.
When y'all talked about it when you're traveling, did they, you know, I don't want you to name names if you don't want to, but did they agree with you? Were they on the,
yeah. Yes. It was anybody that knew anything about the business, but yeah, you had to give them a chance, you know. It was different, and the business was evolving and changing. And I was come from the old school, but I'm not so old school that I'm not able to change and see that things change, times change, and you have to change with them or you get left behind, you know. But you can't completely change, and you can't no longer be an apple and try to become an orange. You know what I mean? If you're an apple, you got to be an apple. You got to be the best apple you can be, the brightest, shiniest, healthiest apple you can be. Quit trying to be a friggin' orange, you know. And that's what's. And so many of the things that he did was just the comedy, the things. Stuff falling out of it. Like he had Nash in the ring and going to have a big pile of shit or something, whatever it was, come falling out of the ceiling and land on him. And it missed. Thank God. You know, about 4 or 5 feet. It was like, you know. And what was the point of that? You know, and there was just so many little things that he was doing to try. I honestly got to thinking toward the end, is he purposely trying to fix it where so that we'll never take this thing over again? I mean, it has a spy sent this son bitch in to take us down. I mean, I truly felt that. It felt that way. And after being in WCW as long as I was, and being number 2 for so long as we was, and then finally we took over and we become number 1, what we wanted to do, to see it slip away and to feel it, knowing that it ain't gonna come back, and knowing that this guy here has been put in charge, and listening and seeing the things that he's doing, and I'm like, this ain't it. We're not.
And Russo, it sounds to me, Russo's more Crash TV. Of course, he loved swerve heavy storytelling. And it seems Bischoff was more, long term story structured art.
Yes.
What about backstage? Did his seem like Russo was more fast paced? Did it ever cause chaos? And how did Bischoff handle chaos differently?
There wasn't as much chaos with Bischoff there, and there really wasn't that much chaos with Russo there. Once the show started, people are business. We're professionals. We want to go out there and put out the best show that we can. If there's somebody chaos in the back, somebody will snuff it out and straighten it out, or somebody should get fired. There wasn't like somebody always stirring up shit in the back. There was people always stirring up. If they were going to stir up shit, it was going to be behind your back, not in the back. You know what I mean?
Okay.
That's how it went. If there was going to be shit stirred, it was always behind your back, not in the back. Somebody trying to rally the troops together. It was more that type of thing.
Did Russo ever have his stooges when he was there?
I'm sure he did, but I didn't know who they were or didn't care.
Okay.
I had got to a point where sometimes you get to a point where you just you can't let yourself care. You just have to do your job the best you can and know that what you did was you did your part right. I'm not going to agonize because this guy don't know what the F he's doing. I can't. And if there's nothing that I can do about it, I'm not going to do that to myself. So that's how I kind of looked at it, man. I tried to do the best I could do at my thing, stay out of the line of fire. And since he was trying to burn anybody that said anything about him, I just, I never spoke an opinion. If they asked, what do you think about this or that? They never asked me, what do I think about this or that, actually, because I would have 2 or 3 matches that I would line up. I'd usually do hardcore and 1 or 2 other matches, and they were usually like earlier matches. Arn or somebody else was doing the later matches. But I enjoyed doing the hardcore stuff. That was fun. So I worked with a lot of different people. I got to work with Terry Funk a lot, and that was really fun.
Somebody in the chat, Adam Krasnov, said Ed Ferrara might have been one of those stooges. Do you think so?
I'm sure he was, but I always got along well with Ed. I know he was Vince's guy. He was Russo's guy.
Okay.
And so I'm sure he was a stooge. And so what? Everybody has their position. And
sure.
But I really liked Ed. I thought Ed was a super nice guy, and I thought that he would have been, if he could have got rid of Russo and him been the writer. I thought he had better ideas and better presentation than Russo did. Honestly.
All right.
I think that Ed, in order to keep his job, was kind of pretty much a yes man for Russo, because I listened and seen Ed's ideas and know that they were better than Russo's, but he was going with the flow, I'm pretty sure.
From your own experience, what were your personal dealings with them as far as how they interacted with y'all personally? Were they, I guess just say this, was either one of them a micromanager? Were they both hands off? How were they, would you say, in that regard?
No, they really wasn't a micromanager. I think if anybody was that, it would be more so Eric, because Eric wanted things to be right. But he wasn't going in and restructuring. He would come in and listen and make sure that it sounded right. Russo was this is my way. I've written it this way. This is the way it is. Blah, 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 blah. But Eric was more. He knew that people had in order to get your character over, sometimes you just can't go out there and read everything off the written page. You have to take your PowerPoints and be you to
Okay.
make it work. And Russo didn't like that. Russo wanted word for word, did what I say, and man, that handcuffs a lot of people. It handcuffs a lot of people.
Yeah. What? Let me ask you this then. It sounds like your verdict is you had I would say, overall positive experience working with Bischoff. Is
Right.
that correct?
Yeah.
Would you? I don't want to put words in your
I'm
mouth.
not saying that I liked Eric because I never hardly spoke to Eric. He was so
Okay.
busy taking care of egos and super egos. And I had, man, after dealing with all the special needs stuff and working with all the people that I'd seen people out there that had real problems, man. And them
Yeah.
super egos just kind of pissed me off, and I didn't have a lot of time for them. But I didn't see him as one of those super egos. I thought he had an ego now, don't get me wrong, but I didn't. I saw him more
Not to
as,
you.
yeah, no, but not to me, really. I was just a ref. I was just one of the workers. He was never really a dick to me, but he was never my buddy either. It was, that's the way it should be.
Well,
Yep.
let me flip the other side of the coin then, because I would say, would you say your overall experience with Russo was negative, or were you neutral? Were you
Yes,
positive?
I would
Okay.
say negative. I wouldn't want to work with Russo again.
All right, I'm gonna flip the coin on you then for both of them. First, Bischoff, overall positive, but give me one negative working with Bischoff. What's something you did not like with his style of when you were working with him?
He, for the most part, was good to work with, but there were certain egos that he couldn't control because they had, and you couldn't sometimes always get that straight answer because of that, and that was hard.
What do you mean when you're not getting a straight answer? Give me an example of
I'll
something.
give you an example of the match with Hogan and Sting.
Okay.
You
felt like he should have said, "Hey, here's what we're doing."
Yeah.
And
Right,
he was
straight out of
going,
the
"Well,
chute,
what does they think? What do they say?"
all
Okay.
that. Yeah, there would have been no drama. Hell,
Okay.
he met me when I got to the building before I even got into the building and told me what he wanted. I was like, okay, so that's pretty plain. I'm sure that they're going to put some twists and turns into it and make it exciting, but that in its own is kind of flat unless we dress it up really good, But I figured they was going to do that. And, but then Hogan come to me and wanted a really slow count, and Sting come to me and wanted a really fast count. It was like a clusterfuck, And I mean, come on, man. That was the biggest pay-per-view maybe of all times for that company,
But you thought him being in charge should have got everybody on the same page.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to throw him under the bus, but that was his deal,
Sure.
And he'll even tell you himself that that the meeting never happened and it should have, that because Hogan took care of most of his own stuff. I worked with Hogan a bunch of times, and I never one time went into his office and sat down and listened to the finish. He'd tell me at the gorilla position what he wanted, or tell me, he'd see me in the hallway while we was waiting. I knew what the finish was, but if there's anything special he needed for me to do, he'd tell me,
Okay.
And we didn't. I didn't go and sit, and the guy he worked with they would go in there and they would work their stuff out, but that was their space, that was different than everybody else too, because everybody else had their agent and the referee would sit in on it, and it was a meeting, of everybody involved. But when I worked with Hulk, I would just, let them do their thing, and then hey, tell me what you need, bam, and we'd go do it. And that's how we did it,
All right. On the flip side, when you said overall would be negative, experience with Russo. Give me one positive. What was a positive working with Russo? What's something you thought
a positive
he did
for
that
Russo,
very good? Yeah.
A positive for Russo is that he wanted to push fresh young talent.
Okay.
But he was trying to push too many at one time. And I understand that he was trying to throw as much crap, throw as much against the wall as he could to see what would stick. But he had a lot of kids that had great potential that could have got over if they were groomed right. But they tried to rush through so many of them to see who the people would just buy and then try to set them on fire. And it was like they wasn't taking time to build these kids,
Yeah.
so that they could have longevity and build their characters and build, that wasn't happening. But he was introducing fresh blood. I will give him that, and
Okay.
but the way it was done, I disagreed with, because nobody had a chance to get over because they was just throwing them all in, and nobody got real attention focused. When John Cena, when it's time for him to get the green light, Vince McMahon walked into a production meeting and says, "For everybody in here, I want you to know, John Cena's been given the green light. So everybody in here, make your ideas and your thought processes and everything you do along those lines from here forward."
Okay.
So everybody knows there, that
We're on the focus. We got to
boom.
focus.
Yeah, we didn't get that. None of those kids got anything like that.
He would throw them out there, but there's not a let's focus on this guy or this gal or whatever.
Yeah, they were just pretty much thrown to the wolves, and if they didn't, and that's hard. It's hard for a young green kid. It's hard enough to learn how to work, but to get a gimmick over before you know fully how to work is friggin' impossible. You have to be a worker to get a gimmick over. And just in my opinion, and all those kids were given gimmicks and they were still learning to work. So that was another, reason why they weren't really sticking, they wasn't really getting traction with a lot of them. Kids that could have been big money draws if they would have been handled, properly instead of 1 in 20 or 30,
Yeah. Same thing with his ideas. I mean, he at least was trying to be innovative and trying to go, where can we push this envelope or how far can we go here? But like you said, it was almost too much coming out.
Trying to be different is good to try and be different. But like I said earlier, if you're an apple, be an apple. Be the best apple you can be. Quit trying to be a friggin' orange,
Probably should have been some more balance there.
Yes, definitely.
Well, all right, brother. I cannot believe we've already passed an hour again.
Wow.
It is flew by today. Appreciate everybody for joining us. Reverend Buddy Green, Omega, the Blue Meanie coming in.
Yes, sir.
Wrestling 782, Byron Stone, Adam Krasnov, C-Dub, more. Can't get to everybody, but we appreciate y'all joining us live. This thing is growing. It's getting bigger every week. We're getting more questions. We're getting more viewers. And we love it, man. We're excited to be here at Podcast Heat YouTube Wrestling channel, and we are excited to be weekly every time now. And also excited, Nick, that you can take time out of your busy schedule and join us every single week. And real quickly, don't forget, Deep South Wrestling Monday Night Garage is coming up. When is that? Is that this weekend, Nick?
Yes, sir. That's this weekend coming up, man. I believe it's Sunday afternoon, and it's indoors. So that's our. My son's dog was getting on somebody's ass.
I didn't know if it was mine or yours.
Yeah, it might have been yours. I know somebody that ain't supposed to be here just showed up either here or there. But anyway, back to Monday Night Garage. Yeah, our guard dogs will show up, or our guard dogs will come and get you.
The dogs are pumped up about it. Monday Night Garage is the name of the place. We should tell everybody.
Yeah, man, that's Monday Night Garage. It's in the West End in Atlanta, and it's indoors. It's a great environment. We have great crowds there. They have the wood fire pizzas and all the different brew selections, and the food is great. Great beers, and the action we bring it every time. So come down and check out Deep South, and you will have a good time. I guarantee you.
Go to wearedeepsouth.com if you want to find out more info. You can see the shop. You can be a part of it. You can learn more about the Deep South Wrestling Stars. Also follow them on YouTube. They have their own YouTube channel at Deep South Wrestling _official. And, of course, Instagram, Deep South Wrestling as well. You can follow myself.
I got a special guest lined up for next week as well.
Do you?
A surprise guest.
Okay.
Yeah. You're going to like this one, too.
We'll bring back again. We've got a guest coming in next week. I'm excited for that. Going to be super fun. You never know what's going to happen with our guests. So we always love that. Nick, one more time, brother. Thank you for joining us, man. Always a pleasure. Thank you for being candid and open and honest with us and sharing your feelings with everything about your career, man. We covered everything. We covered We covered the Assassin, the Cornette, to Russo and Bischoff, and everything in between.
Pops,
it was a fun show.
Pops Rocky passed as a child, as a kid.
Gotta love it, man. Those are fun stories now that it's in the past. It's
we can go back to St. Joe. Nobody's gonna kill us. I've been back there since.
Have you? I should have said, have you been back there?
Yeah, we've lived there since, and then the heat's
Did you?
Away. Yeah, the heat's
Oh, that's great.
I lived there for probably 6 or 7 months. After I graduated high school, we went back so we could be around relatives that we hadn't seen for years and years. And Pop got a booking job for a little while, but anyway, that's neither.
Well, the staff turned over on the staff.
Yeah, they had. Yeah, he might have some grandchildren that may be pissed at us, but hell, I can handle them.
Thanks everybody for interacting with us. If we did not get to your question, we will try to get to it next time. Again, we encourage you to take part in those super chats. If you want to make sure we get to yours, hit us in those super chat. You'll jump to the front of the line. We'll make sure you get to it. Make sure we get to it before we get off the show that day. How about we do it again next week at this same time, same bat channel, Nick?
I'll be here, man. I'm ready to roll.
We'll be back here again next Wednesday at 4:00 Eastern. And like Nick said, a very special guest, surprise guest. I don't even know who's coming on, but we're going to have a fun time.
I'm only going to give one hint.
Oh, no.
That's the only hint that I'm giving you right there.
No, I don't know what that means, but
you'll know.
I can't wait. If y'all know, leave a comment below and see if you know who Nick is talking about, who might be our special guest down there. Also, if we didn't get your question, drop it in the comments. We'll try to get to it as well next time. So if you're not with us live, drop those in, and we'll try to get back to those on our next episode. He's Nick Patrick, the NWO Hill Ref himself. I am Cassio. We appreciate you joining us. We appreciate you liking and subscribing to our Podcast Heat Wrestling YouTube channel. And we will be back here again next week on another edition of Nick Patrick's Mailbag, baby.